How you doing, YouTube? Matt, Massive Beer Reviews, back to another review. A little bit of, a little Frankenstein on the dark side of things. Beer, hopeful goodness, in the form of Rushing Duck's B-roll. This, as it says in the front here, is Imperial Milk Stout with coffee. But there's an added component to this. There's blended barrel-aged beer in here, too. What they did was they took a one of their favorite milk stouts, and they blended it with some barrel-aged beers, and then they added coffee. A local roaster. It's not written on here, but you can go look it up, check them out online. And it kind of intrigued me. I was rolling past. I stopped by Russian Duck on my way home from another brewery, and sat and had a couple beers, shooting shit with Josh, one of the brewers, bartenders there. And yeah, they had a special crowler release of this. They were kind of not doing releases of it, but they decided to do just kind of preset amount of crowlers. So I snagged one. We're going to talk about it. I already talked about it. The title, B-Roll Imperial Milk Stout with Coffee, 9.3% alcohol by volume. And this was crowlered today. And what's unique about this? It's a crowler from Russian Duck. Crowlers aren't unique, but I haven't been here since they got their crowler machine. It's been a couple months since I've been up there, but they've had it for a bit. So there you go. Let's see what the sucker has. Oh, yeah, buddy. Okay. You always like to see that film filled to the brim. We're going to do the, I was going to say, we're going to do the horrible pour that I do here, but I actually did pretty well on that. A little bit of spillage on the side there, but what are you going to do? It's a crowler, It's kind of hard. It's hard. Anyway, rough pour out of a crowler, generated a gigantic head on it. Little proper glassware for you people out there that appreciate such. Almost 2 fingers, infinite creaminess. That is where I like my coffee to look like color-wise. When I make my coffee in the morning, my beautiful wife makes it for me. She does it quite well. That's pretty much spot on. Infinite creaminess, super tight, compact bubble seams, a couple stragglers, and she'd be dark. She looks like a porter. She looks like a stout. What does she smell like? I'm getting like slight coffee, slight roast, slight hazelnut vibes. I'm getting like a hazelnutty kind of thing off there. There's like beer and moisture everywhere, so I gotta do a little clean up before I freak out. Yeah, she smells nice. Yeah, a nice big roasted coffee component. It's not super dark roast. It's not super light roast. It's somewhere floating in between. There's not a big bittering component to it. Cold pressed coffee maybe, I don't know, but it's not coming off super bittering. A little bit of roasted malt in there, nothing too crazy. A whole multitude of levels of chocolate as you expect with the porters and stouts. And a soft vanilla component. Assuming coming that from a barrel, maybe a little bit of that kind of bourbon coming through, add a little sweetness, make me think of vanilla. Yeah, she smells quite nice. Smells like a softly blended barrel-aged beer with coffee. Those are good things. Let's dive in. Cheers. That's delicious. Wow, that's dangerous. Oh boy, that's dangerous. Man, that's dangerous. You're talking about a milk stout. So you're getting that nice sweetness from that milk portion, the lactose portion of the show. Like I said earlier, I thought it was more of a barrel thing. Obviously, it's the milk portion of the show coming through. There's a nice sweetness to it. There's a nice bittering, a little bit of soft bittering from the roasted malts. And then you get this nice big roast from the coffee. It comes off way bigger than I thought it would based off of the nose. And there's a depth and richness and complexity to it that you rarely get from a coffeed milk stout. That's where I think the blending comes into play. That's where I think the barreling comes into play. I've done this experiment a couple times, and it's kind of fun to do. If you go to a share and you have a couple of open bottles. I used to do it a lot with Sam Adams Triple Bock. It's not a beer you're essentially going to have laying around all that often, but you take those over-the-top rich, like your Black Tuesdays, your big brewery beers, your Triple Bocks, those, and add them and blend them to smaller, darker beers, and you'd be surprised how much they add depth and complexity to it. And like I said, I think that's kind of what we have going on here. Now, you get, it's really nice, a little bit sweeter in a perfect world than I'd like it to be, but definitely not overly sweet. Sweeter milk stout with a nice roast component and a big coffee portion of the show. Way bigger, like I said, than the nose lets on. And then this kind of barrel floating around in the background. There's a little bit of soft dryness to it. Maybe that's coming from the wood. There's a little bit of extra depth to that vanilla. Maybe that's coming from the wood too. But there's also this little bit of sweet cherry vibe to it. Kind of gives it this Russian Imperial Stout vibe. That's probably coming from the barreling, the bourbon, stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to pick out where each one of these bits and pieces of this beer kind of originate. But at the same time, it's really tasty. Viscerally, really tasty. I mean, this is just like, you taste it, you drink it, you're like, oh, this is just good beer. And that's pretty much what Russian Duck does. I mean, I've said this on several occasions, and I've said it, I've written it, and talked to people about it, and a lot of people kind of give me a little bit of a side eye. I think Russian Duck is one of the better barrel programs in the country. They don't do a ton, but what they do, I said doo-doo. What they do barrel and what they do blend, and I want to kind of stress that portion of the show, the blending portion of the show, I think it's fantastic. I mean, everything from their anniversary series to their part series, to, which is one and the same, but to their, Dog's Bollocks, to a lot of their blended beers. They're freaking fantastic. They have a very, very deft hand when it comes to blending. And this shows, and I like that kind of marriage between kind of your kind of dirty American stout lambic, aged of fresh young beer and old aged beer. I like that kind of marrying of the two, because sometimes when you do that, you would think, just off the top of your head, you'd be like, well, you're just going to lose the barrel beer in there. It's not going to add anything to it. Is that the case? Maybe. Maybe the barrel beer is stellar by itself, but I definitely think it added a decent portion of the show to the base beer. Added a bit of depth and complexity you can't fake. You can't fake time, people. You can't do it. People have beer in barrels, let's say for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 months. You can tell when a beer sat in a barrel for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You can really tell the difference. That's age. That's, that's a 40-year-old bottle of scotch as opposed to a 20-year-old bottle of scotch. You can't fake age. You just can't do it. And bring that blending of that older barrel aged beer into this stout and adding that added extra coffee component, which I think it really needed to kind of temper down that sweetness, just makes it for a fantastic beer. Fantastic dark beer. I dig it. I like it, if that's not obvious. So let's talk about it. Is it one of the better? Is it a barrel aged beer, dark beer? Blended beer? Blended stout. Is it one of the better, darker beers that I've had as of late? Yes. Worthy of the conversation. Maybe not number one, but absolutely fantastic. Value and availability. It was weird. It was like $15.30 for a crowler. I've never seen like change numbers like that before, but $15 for 32 ounces of pseudo barrel-aged huge coffee beer. It's kind of not that shabby. And leave you with, if you like, what will you like this beer? If you like well-made barrel-aged stouts, you like blended beers, you like dark beers, you like coffee beers, you just like good beer. I know I say that every now and then, but when I say that, I really mean it. If you like good beers, you'll like Russian Duck. You like their barrel aging program. I love the stuff they do outside of the barrel program. I like their hops. I like their lagers. I like all that stuff. But their barrel program really shines. So if you're ever up there in the Orange County area, they're very close to Equilibrium, not far away from Hudson Valley and the like. Absolutely worth checking out. There's so many people. When I go to, I was at Equilibrium before I went to here, and I said, random people coming there for the first time Equilibrium. I'm like, or people that have been to Equilibrium several times, and I'm like, what are you headed to Russian Duck? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? What's Russian Duck? It's 15 minutes away. Go there. Check them out. Super cool. Dual tap room. One's dog friendly. Just don't show up in a bus or a party van or anything like that, and you'll be good to go. Super great beer. Super cool people. Check them out. So there you go. Another review in the books. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing podcasting stuff. I've been trying to get these guys. I interviewed Dan and Nikki from Russian Duck on a radio show a couple years ago. I've been trying to get them back on a regular podcast. They've been kind of bucking me. They're busy. You know what I mean? But I've been asking them, keep yammering their ear to do the podcast. So we'll get them on eventually. Go check that out. And hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. Hopefully enjoying a nice big robust beer right now. And hopefully see you next time. Cheers.